All right, welcome everybody. Great turnout today. Thanks for everybody who showed up early. Still have some folks coming in, but we'll go ahead and get started. This is All the Leads Probate Mastermind call number 12. So we've been at this, I think we may have had a bye week, so we've been at it for about a year on the role play calls, and they just seem to keep getting better. So for those of you who are new to this call, the line is in Q&A mode. So if you would like to role play anything, share an objection that you're hearing, or on a positive note, share any language that you have been using that you found to work really well for you, please step up. But we'll remind you that this isn't the same format as the mastermind call. It's not necessarily a Q&A. We like to try to stay in a role play format so everybody can get the most from this. So if you have questions that are specific to marketing or anything like that, you can always ask those on the Thursday calls. Every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have the Probate Mastermind call. So we have one person in the queue so far. Guys, we have time for more, and please, don't be shy. Even if you have something that you would like to hear being role played, but you don't want to put yourself in the hot seat, enter the queue and ask your question, and I'll hopefully be able to entice somebody else on the line to jump in the hot seat and role play it with me for you. So no bad questions here, guys. We've got one person in the queue, so I'll go ahead and unmute number ending in 2535. 1 second. Okay, 2535. You should be live.
Hi, this is Sylvester. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Great. So my question is, I have a delivery service that delivers these pre-listing packages, and if they're not home, they leave a note, from the delivery person to call a number in order for a package to be delivered. What script would you use when they call back to request a package, which doesn't say anything about real estate related? It's just a delivery notice.
And that line is ringing direct to you, right?
Right.
Okay. And there was no mention of the nature of the package or anything. It's just a kind of like a cold. Okay.
It's a curiosity approach.
Well, we'll role play this, but I want to go through what I find to be the most common objections that I've learned to address on the front end early. Is who are you? Why are you contacting me? What is it that you can do for me? And just so you want to cover those things, and it's what I roll into what I call my probate unique selling proposition, or USP. So who I am, how I got your information, why I contacted you, what unique value I can provide to you. And then I want to ask you a question, an open-ended question. So because you're thinking about the next thing you're going to say to me, or how you're shutting down, because what you're doing is it's a very cold touch, and it's gonna take them back a little bit. So you want to try to just kill them with kindness on the front end and help them really understand what it is you do. So if you want to give me a call, I'll give it a shot. I've never done it, but I'm not afraid to try.
Okay, ring. Yes, hi. I received this delivery notice of a package.
Okay, what was your name?
My name is Sylvester.
Oh, Sylvester. Hey, my name's Chad Corbett. I'd tried to deliver that. Listen, the reason we reached out, we have a team of real estate professionals, and we specialize in helping families who are going through the probate process. So we were down at the courthouse and noticed you were the executor of an estate, and just wanted to reach out and see if there's any way we could help. And that means anything from helping you get the property cleaned out and personal property sold, to getting it, light repairs, all the way up to a full-blown renovation. It really starts with us understanding your goals, Sylvester, and the families. And then we'll give you some options of ways we can help, and you can make a choice of if you want to work with us, or if you're okay doing it on your own. And you haven't even said, is there a property in the estate that you guys are thinking about selling, or you need help with?
Yeah, it's actually this property, but what package were you going to deliver to us?
It was actually just a kind of a letter introducing us and our service, and if you were listening in the last 15 seconds, it's kind of a moot point now. Fair enough?
Okay. All right. So
is
how
there
can
a
you
property
help?
So are you guys thinking of selling the property? Do you have a plan for it? Is there any way we can help today?
Well, we're thinking of selling it by owner first, just to see if we, got investors, breaking down our doors.
For sure.
Making
Now,
up.
there's one thing I will say. One of the things we do is we can sell a home in 24 hours, no problem, or sometimes we even buy them ourselves. Typically, you're going to sell that at quite a discount. You're going to be at 50 to 70 cents on the dollar. I'm sure you've gotten the postcards that say we buy houses, yada yada. The difference in selling direct to an investor and selling to an investor through us obviously would be that we would have a fiduciary responsibility, relationship with you and be, and help guide you through that transaction. That would be the difference. And typically what we find, if you're not in an extreme hurry, it's usually not in your best interest to sell for that deep discount. So what we typically do is look at different scenarios. So what does it look like as a cash sale? What does it look like kind of as is if we don't touch it? And then what does it look like if we do some repairs or renovate the home? And then we give you a sheet where you can literally see the bottom line of each scenario. And we'll spend 2 or 3 hours on market analysis and really help you make an informed decision. And if you think selling direct to an investor is the best thing, then that's the advice we'll give. We tend to tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And sometimes that's a great surprise, and sometimes it's disappointing to folks. But we never really know until we learn about the property and come out and take a look. So I've got a spot on Friday at 4 o'clock. That's the only spot I've left this week. Would you want to meet up then?
Well, we have 3 brothers that are involved with this, so I guess I would need to talk to them.
Okay. Is everybody in town?
Actually, one of my brothers is in California.
Okay. Well, how tech savvy is he? Does he use computers pretty often?
Yeah, he works for a radio station.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask, we encounter this quite a bit. So we actually are set up where we can use Join.me to do kind of a virtual listing appointment with him. So if we can get anyone who you feel like should be part of the decision, we want to make sure we get to meet together and kind of discuss this. And we can even have him there on a laptop as we talk to be part of the conversation. If that's too much, then we can do a simple conference call and accomplish the same thing. But do you think that he would be able to do that on Friday around 4 o'clock?
Well, I don't know, because we're not really talking. He's a greedy bastard. Can you talk to him?
Sure. Yeah, I can. Before we get off here, I'll get his number. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the tentative spot on Friday at 4, so you and the other two can kind of start make your schedule work. I'll speak with him, and then I'll give you a call back and let you know that I've spoken with him and that he'll be there. Well, let me ask you this first: Are you okay with him being on the phone with us? Like eventually we've got to peel the scab off of this and deal with it, right? Are you okay with him being part of the conversation?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bad divorce. We have to do it.
Okay. Well, I don't mind being the intermediary or the mediator here. We've done that with divorced couples as well, and we'll try to absorb as much of that as we can. But I'll give him a call. And I'll confirm back with you. But go ahead and put that on your calendar for 4, and I'll do my research and plan on being there. And before we go, I'm going to break script here, Sylvester. Before we go, I'm going to get his contact information, confirm all your contact information, and then I'm going to say real quick, tell me a few things about the house, and I'm going to take you down that. I'm going to get a lot of details from you about the house.
Okay.
So what I did there, I let you know who I was, how I got your information, what I could do for you, ask you a question that you had to, and you threw me for a loop, and that was really good because it led us to a better part of the role play. The next progression for me is I want to know before I ask anything about the house, I want to know about the people. And our conversation took us there, and I kind of uncovered that. So what are the people, and what's the relationship dynamic? How many decision makers are there? Are they in town? Can I get them in the kitchen, to have a single appointment with everybody so nobody feels left out? And then you threw the really common objection at me of, well, I got to talk to my brothers. I just let it roll off my back. I gave you a tentative appointment. I said I would call him, confirm, and so there was a lot of things that I did there, and you threw some really good objections at me, but that was kind of the progression that I was trying to follow.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, this is being recorded. You can go back through this as many times as you need to.
Thank you.
I need to start sending packages now. That was good. All right. Thanks so much for your question.
Thank you.
All right. Number ending in 4364. You are live.
Hey, Chad. This is Ryan in Colorado. Just curious if you encounter donation, if you ever use a script with we donate properties as well. Have you ever had that as part of a script where you set up a nonprofit or people have done that and so you can donate it as an option?
I've never actually done it firsthand. I actually do know some churches, and in Roanoke, it's pretty common for older folks to donate their homes to churches. I've never had any firsthand experience with it, other than we've bought them from churches. That's my only experience with it. So, what are you thinking that you would be the director of the nonprofit?
Yeah, I have an idea of how I can set up a nonprofit for grieving families, and then have them donate their house to the charity, and then have it use the proceeds to help the foundation. But then I would have an investor be a part of the nonprofit who would actually be the buying party as part of the nonprofit. So the funding would come through the investor at first, until we had enough money to do it just straight up from the charity.
Okay, and then who would the nonprofit serve? Like who would benefit from that? The money that was
so
made?
The nonprofit would serve the idea which is being created. It would be a web presence for anybody who's grieving, to have coping mechanisms from the website. So it would serve anybody who's grieving, and we would focus on the folks here in Colorado first, but then anybody who finds the website or we market to.
Okay. So the public service is more of a mental health counseling type of service that the nonprofit provides,
yep.
Correct?
Yep.
I think that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good idea. I mean, if you've identified a need, and I think it's a great idea. And I mean, nonprofits are great vehicles, and as a director, you could take a salary, a reasonable salary for that. And if you've got an investor that will basically write I think probably the deal structure there is the investor makes a loan to the nonprofit, and then the nonprofit sells the house to the investor, pays off the note and takes whatever profit is made on top of that. I think that's probably what your deal looks like. Did you want to role play that?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to be the seller?
No, let me try and do the agent, and I haven't really gotten into my calls yet, so this would be a first.
So I'm
just starting.
You're going to be the agent / director of the nonprofit, or founder of the nonprofit, correct?
Yeah, I'd like to run this by you because I have written out my script and what I want to use. And I listened to what you said about having a why, who you are, why I'm calling, and I'm calling, and what I'm calling for to help, how I can help. So tell me what you think of this.
Let's I think it's going to be a lot more natural. So, hello, this is Chad.
Hey, Chad. Hey, Chad. This is Ryan Anderson. I'm calling in regards to probate case number 12345. I believe you're the executor for the estate, correct?
I am.
Okay, great. First, I'd like you to know who I am and why I'm calling you. I'm 40 years old, and my parents died when I was a kid from cancer, and 10 and 14, and my grandparents also passed away when I was 16 and 18, and I had to go through funerals and probate and estate sales and the minutia that fell on me. Now, 20 years later, I have a passion for helping people in the grieving community, from small groups and nonprofits to the real estate community. And I own a residential real estate company, and I got your information from the county records, and I'm calling to help you sort out. I'm calling to help you sort out the details of the real estate involved in the probate of the estate. I have tools and a team to assist you. So I'm just curious, is there real estate involved in the estate, and what's your plan for the property and the estate?
Okay, good job. I would elaborate on tools and systems, I think is what you said. And I would say something like there's a lot of different ways we help these families, ranging from X to Y. And I would throw a couple of those examples out there because the lay person who's grieving, and you just threw a lot at me. So I don't know what the hell your tools and systems are. So you need to tell me that, like in layman's terms, what are you talking about? What can you do for me? That's the only thing I would say to improve on that. The question that you ended with was awesome. I don't know if you listened to a past role play call or came up with it yourself, but that's such a good question. Is there real estate you need help with, and do you have a plan, or what is your plan for it? And that's such a good way to ask that question, because if they don't have a plan, it's very telling. They need Ryan if there's no plan in place. But I would elaborate a little bit, because, and is that story true? Well, I'm not assuming. I mean, you actually went through that yourself. My gosh.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to get into this, because I can relate to these people.
You got the biggest why of any of us, dude. Like, I mean, that is, sorry you had to go through that, but you know, you can draw strength from that, I'm sure. So I think that's a super powerful why to not only to be doing this, but to be in the position of the director of such a nonprofit in the first place. And I would, as painful as that probably still is for you, I would bring that to the forefront so people can empathize, you know, show that you're being empathetic. Like, I've been there. As a kid, I had to deal with this, and I know how confused I was, and how confusing it was for the rest of the family. And like, bring that to the forefront and show why you're doing this, why I have the nonprofit, why I help these families. But I think you did a really good job. That was the only thing I would say, is polish what your services are and what your offering is going to be, and find a way to, you know, concisely get it in there, so they understand just what value you can actually bring.
Well, I like what you said on the first call today, which is exactly that's the first thing I picked up on, is you went through your quick list real fast, but you know, it was clear. And so I'm thinking, I insert that, like, I'm calling to help you sort out the details of the real estate involved, the possible real estate involved in the probate of the estate. You know, for instance, things that we help with is you can donate the property. We have investors that can buy the property in less than 7 days. We've got the other option, too, of trying to really fix it up and make it beautiful and sell it for the maximum dollar available. I have all those tools and a team to assist you, and then go into, so is there property involved in the estate, and what's your plan for the property in the estate? Is that kind of what you're thinking, and give those examples?
Yeah, it's perfect, man. I think that's a pretty powerful front end conversation. Like, you definitely have credibility, having gone through all that, and as the founder and director of a nonprofit, you're just going to have even more credibility. Have you thought of, what are you going to call your foundation? Do you know?
Unleash the Grief.
Yeah. So
somewhere along those lines.
And I think you're on the right track. Like, I think that's a strong offer. I think you'll do really well with it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Ryan and Sylvester put themselves in the hot seat. Guys, we've got time for one more. We've got nobody in the queue. I'd love to hear from somebody else. If you've got anything, any objections you're hearing, who's been on the phones, and who has some language that's been working for you? Is there anything that you're, you know, that you think you could share with the group that you found to be really effective for yourself? Who's on the line that's been shut down, and they're your hand's almost on *6, but you're like, no, I can't do this. Hit *6, pause a moment, take a breath, hit 1, and tell us where you're getting shut down. I feel like I'm on a radio show now. But we've got time for at least one more, if anybody wants to jump in. All right. Well, until somebody comes into the queue, I am going to talk about some of the things that we commonly get questions about, and what we did in the role play. So when you start, this calls a lot about the initial conversation. And if you look under step 5 in subscriber resources, you'll find a document in there that's in Microsoft Excel, and it's called the Probate Seller Interview Sheet. And I have moved those lines around up and down and asked certain questions in different orders and changed it up and fell on my face 100 times. The order of that probate seller interview sheet is very deliberate. So I try to help them understand who I am and why I called and flesh out those objections on the front. Then I try to learn about the people, the relationship dynamic among those people. Then I set the appointment. And then and only then do I talk about the real estate. When I talk about the real estate, I want to verify the specs. And by what I mean by that is square footage, bedrooms, baths, year built. I want to know, is there anything on, that I might not see on public record or past MLS, like swimming pools, detached garages, unpermitted additions, things like that might affect the value. And I'm going to go deeper with this conversation than I would with a FSBO or an expired or just a referral or anyone, because I'm bringing options to the table. And what I said in the first role play is absolutely true. I'll prepare a scenario using a seller net sheet, and I show them the net proceeds from a cash sale, an as-is sale, or a rehab sale. So there's a lot more details I need in order to do a one-stop listing appointment that I need to gather. So once I've kind of confirmed the specs on the house, then I want to talk about the condition of the house. And I made the mistake early on this of saying, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the house? And inevitably, you're always going to get somewhere above a 6. They're always going to say, oh, it's a 7 or an 8 or it's a 10. And when you get there, a 10's a 4, a 10's a 2. And then your whole pricing strategy is shot that you've spent the time researching, the research doing. And this is only if you're doing a one-stop listing appointment. I prefer to go to the house, spend less than an hour, get the listing, do the photography, and be out. And we typically go to our probate homes. I'm usually only there one time. I put on an electronic lockbox and a combo so anyone can get in, including the family and appraisers. And I really never go back. If an estate sale has to be done, we'll have everything coordinated with the estate sale company, and they can do that. There's really no reason for us to go back usually. So once I've kind of figured out the condition of the property, well, let me back up. So that instead of asking the question of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Think of how can you ask an emotional question to get them to paint you a picture of the house. And the best question I've asked, and it was like night and day, the answers. The best question I've come up with is, so, all right, Ryan, tell me, you imagine, let me use your imagination here for a second so I can get an idea of what condition the house is in. You've saved up 2 months of salary, married the woman of your dreams. You're gonna buy her. You're gonna buy your first home for her. Tell me, as you step across the threshold with her, what has to be changed, fixed, repaired, replaced before you would feel proud making this your first home with her. And it's amazing when you put people in that emotional state where they're answering that from a first person, like they're imagining themselves buying this home for their husband or wife. It's fascinating the answers you get. They will paint you a picture of, oh my gosh, that bathroom has one of those pink toilets and the tile. You remember those from the 90s? And the kitchen, I would have to, blow out that wall and open up the floor plan. So they start painting the picture of, okay, so I see a ranch home that's really dated but in solid condition. And you just get a much more thorough answer, and you get an emotional answer. And it's literally like they're walking you through the house on the phone. And that has helped prepare me more for appointments than probably any other question I've ever changed up. Because they will, sometimes they'll spend 10, 15 minutes just telling you about the house and all the things and if upgrades were made. So that's kind of the progression. So once I know about the condition of the home, the last thing I want to touch on is the finances. So is there money in the estate they're willing to invest? And that's even like to pass an FHA appraisal or, to completely renovate the home. Because sometimes homes need $2-3 grand in work just to pass, to be sellable to a first-time home buyer. And if they're not willing to put the money in or or it's just simply not there, then you've got a whole different conversation when you get to the house. Your price strategy shouldn't even consider retail, because I still show it to show them what they can't have if they're not willing to invest any money in repairs. But you need to say, listen, if, we're not going to pass inspection. You've got peeling paint, broken glass, missing handrails. There's no way that this will pass, a buyer's going to pay retail for this. And if you're not willing to do any of those repairs, then we probably need to look at a cash sale. And as is, where is cash sale with one of our dozens of investors. So find out about the finances. The questions I use there are, well, tell me, Ryan, is there a mortgage on the home or any liens that you're aware of? And is there a net figure that you guys have in mind that we need to make sure we get for you? And what I'm doing there is fleshing out price expectation to see where they're at. I'm never going to discuss numbers on the phone, ever, ever. They're going to ask me about the value, and I'm going to say, I'll let you know when I see you on Friday at 4. I never have that conversation on the phone. And then the way I close the conversation is I show off just a little bit to insulate myself against any competition. So listen, real quick before I let you go, Ryan, I just want to let you know that we never get paid until we do exactly what we promise. And I know that when you talk to your brothers and your sister, they're probably going to be skeptical because nobody ever expects us to offer the scope of service that we do. So if you could do me a favor, just kind of recap our conversation, let them know that we didn't make any decisions here today and that we're going to talk about all this on Friday at 4, you'd be doing me a huge favor. Because I've unfortunately been in the position where families didn't trust me because I talked to one person and the other 3 felt like they got left out, and I don't want you guys to feel that way. So can you please just kind of recap everything we talked about? And one last thing, when you met with the probate clerk, she should have asked you to pull together a list of assets, a list of heirs, a list of liabilities, all that paperwork, the death certificate. If you could, please bring those to the listing appointment. What we're going to do is we'll just snap pictures and make PDFs, and we're actually proactive and send that to the title company as soon as we have your home under contract. So we're just being proactive and kind of taking some future steps out of the process. Does that sound good? Can you bring those? Okay, perfect. And what I'm doing there with that last part is I'm showing them that I know who they met with. I know the paperwork that they have been asked to put together. So I'm showing off a little bit that I understand the process. I know how to navigate it. I know how to help them with the real estate side. And I'm being proactive to already take something off of their plate, a future task, because they're overwhelmed with tasks right now. And then the other thing I'm doing is I'm really, really insulated. I'm making sure that they've done what they need to do, that the house is ready to sell. It's in the right part of the probate process. But if somebody comes in behind me, I guarantee you they're not going to ask us questions or do it just like that. And they're going to be comparing, as that person's talking, they're going to be comparing the conversation to the one they had with me. And I'm going to seem more knowledgeable and more trustworthy because I knew those things and asked those things and talked about those things. So I still have an empty queue, but hopefully that was valuable to you guys. That's kind of how that sheet was built. And the reason we don't necessarily have written scripts, we have that conversation framework, is because I want people to jump in like Ryan. Like, I want you to take those bullet points that we talked about here today and build your own language around it. Like, build your own strong, unique selling proposition and make it yours. All right, we've got somebody from Hawaii that just jumped on the line. Real quick, we'll take number in 1004. You are live from Hawaii.
Hey, aloha, Chad.
Aloha. I lived on Maui for a while. I know the 808.
How long you lived on Maui?
I was in Maui 3 years. I came back in 2012.
Why'd you leave?
To get back to the mountains and family and Virginia, West Virginia area.
Gotcha. Anyway, so how long have you been doing probate?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been doing probate?
Your phone's cutting out. I think you asked how long I've been doing probate. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
When I moved back from Maui, I was, I had a median price. We built the Hanuakai Resort in Kaanapali. And so my median price was $1.35 million, and I didn't know how easy my job was. and I moved to Roanoke, Virginia, a town where I knew nobody. It was just the closest city to where I grew up. And I did not know how to make a living with a median price of 140. And so I started investing at first. And what I realized was 9 out of 10 sellers aren't going to sell at that price, at a price you need to buy to flip the house. But so I at the end of the day, I was paying for these leads, and I saw I had 9 that I couldn't do anything with and 1 that I could. So I said, how do I help the other 9? And I realized that a large number of those were people who were going through and either had already cleared the probate process and they had inherited it and then were selling, or it was in the probate process. So that was I helped a lady in 2012, probably March of 2012 was my first probate deal, and a light went off for me. It had been listed with a RE/MAX agent for a year. Cell phone photos, no showings, no offers, priced right, marketed wrong, and left all the personal property in it. So I quickly kind of pulled together a plan right there on the spot, and I said, hey, I'll get this estate sale company to come in, appraise the furniture, we'll get that sold, we'll get everything else donated, I'll get my contractor in here, we'll do these repairs. We did like $2,000 in repairs. We ended up selling the home in a really terrible market. We had 4 offers the day we put it out there, and ended up selling it for $25,000 over what we expected. And to me, a light went off. I'm like, how many of these people are there that all they need is the different person with a fresh perspective to look at this and bring some more value to the table, other than, hey, I work for a big box brokerage and I can put a sign in the yard and hope for the best. So I went to the courthouse myself the first time, and it was a pretty miserable. First I went and I met with the probate clerk, and I said, "Can you walk me through this? Like, I want to know every step of the process, so I can do a better job as a real estate agent." And she walked me through it, and then I started pulling the leads myself, and that was in my market. It's a 3-step pen and paper process, and that's before you get back to your desk to do the skip tracing to try to find the phone number. So I started doing it proactively in 2012, and kind of learned not to wear an investor hat, not to wear a realtor hat, but to be a real estate specialist or a real estate advisor. My team name is Corbett Real Estate Advisors. So we approach it as real estate professionals or advisors, and then we ease into the conversation about, well, yes, we invest, yes, we do have a license, we're going to provide options and things like that. So I kind of learned it. I tried to learn it from the investor side. I found that I could actually never took a listing when I went in as the investor first, because once you throw that number on the table, if they don't like it, it breaks rapport and you're out, or I was at least. But if I go in as a real estate professional and I give them that cash number alongside a much more palatable number, then we can have that conversation. If they're not willing to do certain things to get those higher numbers, then we work our way back to the cash number, and then I don't break rapport, and they see how I got to that. So I've through many appointments, I've kind of learned both from the investor side and the realtor side what works and what doesn't. So that's my background on this.
Is this what you mainly do now?
I'm sorry?
Is that what you mainly do now, in addition to all the leads?
All the leads is pretty much my full-time gig now. I travel quite a bit. I'm in a small town in Vermont right now, so I work with agents around the nation in their businesses and kind of tracking their results and stuff. I'm not actively I'm working with financial advisors on probate in my market, but I'm not actively listing probates right now.
Got it. Well, I think you've got it down. You know what you're saying. You've been doing it a long time. You're comfortable. You don't sound uptight at all. For somebody like myself, with the allleads.com, do you have scripts that are available?
So we don't necessarily have written scripts. The document that I was talking about earlier is the probate seller interview sheet is more of a conversation framework. So ultimately what I want as a trainer is I want people to understand the progression of the conversation and those bullet points, and I want you to fill it in with your own language. And it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I've seen so many robotic salespeople just putting their foot in their mouth. So, and these calls are a supplement to that. So we want, and again, I make myself available to almost just about everybody I can. If you want to role play stuff one-on-one, you can always email support@alltheleads.com, and I'll get that ticket, and we can work on your language one-on-one if you'd like.
Yeah, we sell. I was on a conversation a little while back, and we fell into our first probate deal. I had mentioned it on a telephone call, just like this. And at that time, we hadn't closed the transaction, or I think we hadn't closed it. And it was a very difficult transaction. It had 13 heirs. It had foreclosure involved. It had major repairs on the property, and people scattered all over the United States, including Hawaii. 3 of the heirs were living inside the property, and there was a lot of challenges, to say the least, to get this deal done, and we did. Ultimately, we got it done, and
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. 3 trips to the courthouse to get probate court to get the judge to finally give permission for the sale, because the 3 that were living in the house weren't paying rent. Place was in foreclosure. They were part of the estate. They wouldn't sign off. They wouldn't get out even after the judge gave permission to proceed with the sale, because they claimed they had a higher price, which they never did. Then we decided to go ahead and file a foreclosure suit on our own for the estate, which we did. And then that weekend they scattered, and we sold it to a construction company that does rehabs and flips. So it was quite an experience, and we want to we can get through that one through just about anything, in my opinion. So
Well, I'll tell you, man, you got the hard one out of the way on the front end. I find that probably 1 in 100 will have hair on it like that. For the most part, these are very, very receptive clients. They're very grateful people. They're overwhelmed, and when they realize what you have to offer, they are the best clients you'll ever have in your life. They pretty much what you say is what they go with. So they take direction better than any clients that I've ever had. Much different than a FSBO or expired, that's for sure.
Well, we know what the competition's fierce everywhere, and the FSBOs, they think they know it all, and expireds are getting popped by everybody. And I think that not that you don't play them, you do, but I think that as you well know, there's only 2 things in real estate: price and motivation. Period. End of story. The rest of it, I mean, you got to be good at what you do, but that's it. If it's overpriced, it's going to sit. And they got to be motivated to move it, and be motivated in the negotiation process as well.
Yep.
So anyway,
well,
I'm looking forward to jumping on board.
Yeah, thanks so much for participating today and for a good question. Well, guys, we have run over just a little bit, but thanks everybody for showing up today and for some great role plays. Again, if there's ever anything we can help you guys with, please don't hesitate. Email support@alltheleads.com. If it's something training related or role play related, like I said, you can always put in the subject line, role play request, and that will find its way to my phone, or usually not a desk, a phone. And I'll call you somewhere from the Vermont mountains or the New Hampshire mountains this week. But thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.